This is Akashvani, Bengaluru. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Yuvavani. You will now listen to a talk titled Global Gossip Insights from the G20 Summit 2023 by Sanjana TR. She has recently completed her graduation in BCom.
Good evening, Bengaluru. My name is Sanjana. I'm a 21-year-old triple treat enthusiast. First, I love reading novels. They're my ultimate escape hatch. But here's the kicker. I also love talking. Okay, now not to brag, but I'm a trained singer. So I can carry a tune and a conversation with equal finesse. Photography is my jam, and I've been known to capture moments that even Instagram would envy. Plus, I'm not your average student. I'm on an MBA adventure, making business and humor my daily blend. And to top it all off, I have my own podcast where I share stories that are as eclectic as my interests. So buckle up, because you're in for a fun and fantastic ride with me. And today, I've got a rather interesting topic: the latest global gossip. So let's keep our ears open as we delve into the whirlwind of the G20 summit, where world leaders put their heads together and hopefully left with their hair still intact. Now, for those not in the know, the G20 is like the ultimate meetup of world leaders, kind of like the Avengers, when 19 countries and the European Union get together. Sort of like a high stakes poker game with serious global consequences. It's where the big players of the world economy gather to discuss everything from trade and finances to climate change and global challenges. Think of it as a massive family gathering where you have those rich cousins who control a significant chunk of the world's economy. And they're all trying to one up each other in their grand ideas. Now, the fun part is that each year, one country gets to be the host with the most and set the agenda. It's like taking your turn to organize the family picnic and deciding whether you're serving burgers or pizza. Plus, it's not just about economics. They talk about climate change too. It's as if the family decided it's time to discuss the weird weather patterns that Mother Earth has been having lately. But amid all the serious discussions, it's important to remember that the G20 decisions impact our world and our future. So, it's not just about suits and speeches. It's about shaping the course of the planet with a bit of diplomatic humor thrown in for good measure. Let's talk attendance. Picture a global family reunion where you invite aunts, uncles, and cousins that you want to impress. Well, the G20 summit is no different. In 2023, we had our usual suspects, including the US, China, Russia, and other heavyweights. You might wonder, what's in it for India? Well, aside from the photo ops, India gets to lead the way in shaping global economic policies. But seriously, India's presidency is a very big deal for us. The country is poised to tackle issues like climate change, sustainable development, and digital innovation. And what better place to discuss climate change other than a country where summer feels like an eternal hot yoga session? And let's not forget digital innovation. India is like Silicon Valley's talented cousin that no one talks about enough. They're making waves in the tech world, and they're bringing their A game to the G20. Picture this: India, the vibrant land of colors, spices, and Bollywood, suddenly found itself at the center of the world stage, like a Bollywood star hosting the Oscars. So, let's dive into this fascinating tale with a sprinkle of humor. First off, you need to understand that being the G20 presidency is like throwing the world's most prestigious party. India became the host, and trust me, we didn't just serve chai and samosas. No, we served up a diplomatic feast that would make any international chef jealous. India, like a savvy party planner, set the agenda for the summit. It's like deciding what games you'll play at your birthday, but on a global scale. Let's talk about climate change, sustainable development, and digital transformation, said India, and the world nodded their heads. They wanted to discuss the big stuff, the topics that make everyone nod in agreement while secretly hoping someone else will pick up the tab. The G20 summit isn't just about serious discussions, it's also about building relationships. Imagine all these world leaders trying to impress each other. But what's even more amusing is the way India navigated the tricky waters of international diplomacy. They had to balance their interests while keeping the global harmony intact. It's like trying to juggle naan bread while riding an elephant. Challenging, but spectacular when done right. During India's presidency, new initiatives were launched, like the Global Digital Access Plan. It's like India inviting the world to a dance off, saying, let's groove together in the digital age. And they even tackled climate change, aiming to reduce emissions. It's like a dance off with the planet where the moves are eco friendly. When we're talking about the actual summit, let's picture this. World leaders sitting around a giant conference table, like a scene from a board meeting in a James Bond movie. India, as the host, probably brought some Bollywood flair to the proceedings. Maybe a dance performance during lunch breaks to keep everyone energized. But, amidst all the serious discussions, India's presidency had a touch of Indian humor. They brought a bit of Bollywood drama to the world stage, making sure everyone had a good laugh along the way. Who needs a laugh track when you have India as the host? Am I right? India took center stage, set the agenda, and showcased its unique blend of tradition with innovation. And just like a Bollywood film, it left a lasting impression on the world stage, reminding us that even in the most serious of gatherings, a little good impression and a laugh goes a long way. The G20 summit, a meeting of world leaders that's more complicated than trying to untangle headphone wires, had a lot on its plate. In this whirlwind of international diplomacy, they managed to tackle a buffet of global issues without spilling too much gravy. Economics took center, with leaders discussing growth strategies that probably involved more spreadsheets than we'd care to admit. They debated trade policies, investment opportunities, and economic stability. Basically, a high stakes game of Monopoly without the colorful money. Environmental matters weren't left out, as they grappled with climate change issues. While we're not sure if anyone busted out a guitar for a round of songs, they did focus on reducing emissions and sticking to the script of the Paris Agreement. Mother Earth was surely nodding in approval. The pandemic had a prominent role too. Leaders talked vaccines, healthcare, and pandemic readiness, probably wondering if they could get bonus points for good hygiene practices. The consensus? Let's vaccinate, stay clean, and not give the virus any fancy ideas. Infrastructure development was one of the hot topics, with leaders thinking about highways and bridges more than a group of road trip enthusiasts. They brainstormed ways to connect the dots and bring prosperity to every corner of the globe. Trade was in the spotlight as well, with debates on fairness and open markets. Picture this: leaders exchanging goods like they're at a flea market, but with suits instead of Hawaiian shirts. Digitalization made its debut, with leaders discussing the digital revolution and cybersecurity. They wanted to make sure the internet doesn't become a Wild West showdown. Inclusivity and social issues didn't get left out. The G20 talked about equality and youth empowerment, reminding us that this global event was a success indeed. As a 21-year-old, I can't help but look at the summit from my point of view and rename the title to the G20 Summit, where world leaders attempt to solve everything and eventually succeed. So, the G20 Summit, that annual gathering of world leaders that's about as exciting as watching paint dry, right? Wrong. While it may seem like a bunch of old folks in suits talking about stuff that doesn't affect us, there's actually a lot more to it. Let me break it down for you with a sprinkle of humor as we explore the key discussions at the G20 summit from a youth's perspective. 1. Climate change. the ultimate buzzkill. First on the agenda is everyone's favorite topic, climate change. It's like the elephant in the room, or should I say, the glacier in the room. A group of world leaders sitting around discussing carbon emissions while the planet sweats like a contestant on a cooking show. You can almost expect Mother Nature to burst in and say, "Can you guys speed it up? I'm kind of melting here." The ever looming threat took center stage. Discussions revolved around reducing emissions and achieving carbon neutrality, a global pact to save the environment. 2. Global economy, when money talks. Next up, the global economy. It's like trying to understand a foreign language you never signed up for. World leaders gather to discuss trade, investment, and economic growth, and they throw around terms like GDP, inflation, and interest rates, as if we're all supposed to know what that means. But here's the kick, it affects our future. When the economy goes south, job opportunities shrink, and college debt becomes even more terrifying. So we're basically watching a bunch of adults play economic games with our future. At the forefront of discussions, especially in a post pandemic world, was the topic of economic recovery. World leaders in a game of economic Jenga, if you will, carefully removing policy blocks to rebuild their economies. The goal? To ensure a stable and equitable recovery for all. 3. Healthcare. Pills, pandemics, and politics. Healthcare is another hot topic. COVID-19 taught us the importance of accessible healthcare, but the discussions at G20 can sometimes feel like a prescription drug commercial with all the side effects. May cause dizziness, nausea, and existential crisis. Leaders talk about vaccine distribution, healthcare, infrastructure, and how to prevent the next global pandemic. And the debates can be so long that you start to wonder if they're arguing over whether to call it healthcare or sick care. 4. Global tax reform. The G20 summit isn't all about fighting climate change and viruses, it's also about counting the money. They agreed on a global tax reform framework to ensure that multinational corporations pay their fair share. 5. Sustainable development. The quest for a sustainable future was a key topic. It's like a worldwide relay race for the planet, with countries passing the sustainability torch. They talked about green infrastructure, reducing inequality, and fostering inclusive growth. It's like a DIY project where everybody in the world wants to plant trees and create a greener economy. 6. New projects. Major changes were in the air with the announcement of exciting new projects. Think of it as a global Shark Tank where countries pitch in their initiatives. The Digital for All program aims to connect the unconnected, while the Green Belt and Road Initiative was another new implementation. And finally, global challenges. Beyond these main points, the leaders recognized the need to address geopolitical tensions, humanitarian crises, and regional conflicts. The G20 summit held in India was an event of global significance, bringing together leaders from the world's largest economies to discuss pressing issues and foster cooperation. As the leaders departed with their newfound insights and full bellies, India bid them farewell with the promise to continue leading the way, both in diplomacy and a delicious cuisine. So here's to India's G20 presidency, as bright and promising as a blockbuster film. Thank you and have a great evening ahead. Bye, Bengaluru.
You were listening to a talk titled Global Gossip Insights from the G20 Summit 2023. The talker was Sanjana T.R. This program was brought to you by Akashvani Bengaluru.